Please welcome Wynton Marsalis.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to thank y'all very, very much for coming. Congratulations. Welcome to the House of Swing. It's unusual. Normally when I do this, it's high school. So to see older kids, it's an honor and a pleasure for me to have the chance to address y'all. You have questions for me, be very direct, because I'm going to give y'all very direct answers. You don't have to play. You don't have to, you don't have to kid. You can ask any type of question, no matter how serious it is. I'll do my best to answer it as truthfully as I can possibly answer it, and give you the benefit of what I've learned out here all these years, and still continue to try to learn, even if the answer is I really don't know. Because that's the conclusion I'm coming to a lot as time passes. Man, I don't know, A few things I want to say. First, I want y'all to take advantage of this opportunity to meet people who play your instrument, other younger people, other people who are doing things. We call these competitions. But if I go back to when I was in high school, Louisiana, all-state orchestras and competitions we had, the musicians I met that I knew, that I continue to know, like the great Bill Campbell, unbelievable trumpet player and trumpet instructor, who I remember and who I know were not people who were in bands that I considered to be competitors, but they were people from other parts of the state who were serious about playing, that over these years we have continued to grow and develop our relationship, and we know each other. And there's nothing deeper than 30 years passing and you still know someone. You're going to get to something of much greater significance, and you're going to get to something no matter what you get to when you're younger. So I want you to take advantage of this opportunity to meet other people who are serious, fellowship with them, talk with them. They're not competitors. We're in a struggle right now in our country for the identity and the soul of the nation. Two trumpet players hating each other is not going to help. So and I want you to understand how we judge. We don't have a bias. We don't care about, we don't have favor a certain band. We all know each other anyway. So am I favoring Rodney's band over somebody else? No. We want y'all to get better. We will give you the benefit of what we know. And we're going to have different opinions. Ron Carter is going to write one thing. Hammer is going to write another thing. Sometimes we sit right next to each other and we have an argument about it and we disagree on stuff. Our word is not the rule of law. It's our opinion. And our opinion is informed by whatever it is that we know and whatever we hear at a given moment. So if somebody says something that may be a little negative about you, we try never to be destructive. And I ask all of our directors, when you read stuff to kids, we're rushing. Now that my eyesight is gone, I have to choose between looking up on the bandstand or looking at my sheet. I choose the sheet because I have to write the comments down. And we're all in different states of understanding. We're always trying to make our whole music better. And we see you all as a tremendous resource for our country culturally and for the music. And that's our objective, not to see who's going to win an Outstanding Soloist Award over somebody else. It's not really, it's not significant. What's significant is that over the next 10 years or so, we see the quality of our playing rise. One thing I will tell you from doing essentially Ellington for over 20-something years, man, we first started, we had almost no acoustic bass players. Almost nobody was playing clarinet. Nobody was playing plunger mutes. Very few people were soloing. Over 25 years, we have seen unbelievable development and growth in playing of kids, many of whom don't even go on to be musicians. But they talk about the type of feeling that this added to their lives. And you bring that to the experience, not us. I'm gonna admit, I'm looking forward to seeing Jeff Hamilton because I see him twice a year, and he's one of the funniest people on earth. So just to sit next to him, he makes me laugh for 2 days, and I need it in this era. So I do look forward to that, and it is fun for us to crack jokes and argue and play. But, of more importance to us, especially for those of us who get older, is to see our younger generation come in and assume the mantles that we have had and be more serious than we have been. And we want to see growth and development because this is a cross-generational issue. If you think, and I'm going to conclude what I'm saying and open up for you all to ask me questions. I was speaking about Beethoven on a radio show. I said, but if you think about Beethoven as being against Haydn, which is the way he's presented many times, you don't really understand the impact of you don't understand the impact of the proposition of orchestral music and of the symphony. You have to think of Beethoven as being in addition to Haydn, because that's how human beings, how we develop our civilizations and our cultures. One person does this and you add this. Another person does this, you add, and you subtract this and you add this. It's an additive proposition. We increase our knowledge. So Haydn figured out what a string quartet was. He figured out how to make the symphony workers. Here comes Beethoven. He's saying, well, yeah, we can make these voices talk to each other and they can say this. We also, in democracy, have the opportunity for unbelievable growth. But we also have the opportunity to retreat into an ignorant fascism and an imitation of machines. It has nothing to do with right or left. It has nothing to do with your political perspective, because the disease that will infect us infects us all. Understand that is something that I will guarantee you. I may not know much, but I know that's true. And what the music allows us to do is focus the mirror on ourselves and look at it. That's what practicing is. You have to look at yourself. And when you start to look at yourself, you see all kind of stuff. Wow, this was ignorant. Okay, and in order for you to improve, you must be dissatisfied. But if you are only dissatisfied, you're going to stop practicing. Okay, so we always are looking for that balance. So those are all the comments I have. Just a couple of things I can tell y'all about playing in here. This is a big magnifying. If you walk into any concert hall, the concert halls are designed to magnify your sound. So whatever sound you create on the stage is magnified. There's certain sayings I want you to not think of. They're going to fix it in the mix. They're not going to do that. Turn this up. Forget about it. If you play trumpet in orchestra, I'm going to leave jazz for a second, and someone is playing an oboe, you probably don't hear them. But they're playing. So if you think, man, I can just play as loud as I want and they'll fix the oboe some kind of way, they're not going to fix that. We have to balance and adjust and create a good sound on the stage, and the stage will project that stage outward. We have to be able to hear the bass. We have to be able to concentrate on how we're balanced across sections. And we have to make sure we don't just create a noisy sound. Now, the sound on the stage is not exactly like it is out in the house, but be working on and always remember that the softer you play, the more intensity you have to play with. It's not just a matter of playing softly, okay? Another thing is just, you don't know how you sound when you're playing. Don't assess your playing while you're playing. That's the best way to sound sad. Because the mental space that's required to continue to play, you are now occupying with assessing. Don't assess. Go this way. The second you take your mind off of what you're playing, man, that was sad. Or I wonder, is my jacket right? Or was that out of tune? Or somebody's playing bad? You don't have space for those types of thoughts. Think music the entire time you're playing. And once it's over, okay, listen to a tape of it or something and laugh about it. But don't ruin what you're playing. Think about what you played or what you missed. When you miss something, this is the direction we're going in. This life. Nobody has 1,000. You know? And understand another thing. There are many different types of words and things that people talk, but we have a definite, direct, basic, and true love for you all. As jazz musicians, as people who want to play this music, it is a struggle. So when I look out and I see all the different directors, I see Terrell, I see Bill. I'm not looking at Bill's band like, man, we got to make sure this band gets in. I've been knowing Bill since I was a student. You know, loved him with a depth and intensity. Transcriptions he did for years, I've studied. conversations I've had, things he's written, I've read. When I see this man, the respect is so deep and profound. And it goes back so many years. That is the spirit that we want this to have. That's where we are coming from. And I know I'm speaking for the Hammer. I tell the story with Ron Carter all the time to people. When I was 19, I played with Ron and Herbie and Tony Williams. We had one day of rehearsal. I had no idea in the world what they were playing. Man, we were walking on the stage to play the Hollywood Bowl. And I was thinking, man, what is my chance of playing with these guys, Sorcerer, and these songs I never... I don't even know what the chords they're playing. I was playing in a funk band a year before. And we get ready to walk on the stage, and I'm thinking to myself, man, how in the world did I get in this situation? About to go make a fool out of myself in front of all these people. Ron Carter walked over to me before we walked on the stage and put his arm around me, and he said, hey, man, no matter how lost you get, listen to me. And I will play downbeats. I'm going to spoon feed this to you, and you're going to be all right. Okay? And I thought, damn, how did he know what I was thinking? He hugged me, and we went out there, and I proceeded to be lost on almost every tune. But he was right. It was okay. That is the spirit that we are coming at this with. Now, it doesn't mean me and Ron have agreed on everything, but the love and respect I have for him is never ending. Okay, with John Faddis. I would have left New York City if it were not for John Faddis. I used to go to his house every day. I was country as corn. I would go see him. Hey, man. And he'd, man, do this. I stay Lou Soloff. These are the type of relationships you need. People that will support you and bolster you up. And all of it was in the spirit of the music. I don't even think of Lou Soloff that I won't start to get full because of the type of love he had for the trumpet and for musicians. Every time he heard another musician, hey, man, have you heard this guy from Russia? One day, me and Lou Soloff, I had a shofar because I had played at the opening of the synagogue on Lexington Avenue. And Lou Soloff dropped by my apartment with a shofar that he had. He said, man, have you ever played shofar? I said, man, I have one in here. And we pulled out these two shofars and we stood up and played them for 30 minutes. And then after that amount of time, he looked at me and said, what are we doing? And I said, man, I don't know. He said, let's stop doing this. Okay, Lou is gone, but we still here. And the spirit he brought to music, mouthpiece changes and all. We have to keep that. You ever see somebody with 8 mouthpieces change between phrases and hit every note and still be saying, did I miss that? This type of soul and feeling Lou Soloff will bring to things. So that's the spirit we want to be in and that we are in here. It does not matter if it's Jazz Lincoln Center or if it's our staff. Everybody in here, from Zach, who's doing the lights, to Jeff, who's on the crew, Todd, Megan, it doesn't matter. David Robinson at the sound. If you don't sound right, don't blame him. Okay? So if you all have any questions for me, I'm happy. Don't be shy. Yeah. You could come. You got to come to the microphone. You want to make sure if your people are listening to you, they can hear you and see you too.
My question is, what makes a rhythm section swing, in your opinion?
Balance. Okay, let's think about the rhythm section from a balance standpoint. The softest instrument is the bass. It's the lowest instrument. The loudest instrument is the drums. The cymbals are the highest pitch. The highest pitch has to play with the lowest pitch on every beat. Man, does a high pitch want to play with a low pitch? Piccolo want to play with a tuba? No. Okay, that's democracy, Republican, Democrat. So the challenge of it is, how do I get that cymbal to play with that bass? The bass drum has got to balance the kit and play on every beat with that cymbal. Now, let's think about the rhythm. The cymbal is in 6 and the bass is in 4. So one is in an odd 3, like I said, it's an African concept. And that 3 rhythm is sounding all the time with that 4. Does 3 want to sound with 4? Whew, man, it's got to do that. Let's think about the piano. Piano is like Congress. It has all the keys, has all the functions, can play as a percussion instrument with the drums, can play inside of the rhythm, can play a counter melody, can play high, can play low, can make ultimate choices. So an intelligent piano player is comping in all of the different ways you can comp. Inside the rhythm section, like Count Basie, coming out of the stride style from Jelly Roll Morton, to internal lines like Lenny Tristano played, bebop type comping, which is the most kind of common way that people comp. Bud Powell kind of imitating a big band horn section. If you play piano in a big band, the horn's already playing. Does that make sense? And Errol Garner, four on the floor, like swing, like a guitar player would play in the rhythm section. Or like Chick Corea and Herbie play, which is a combination of all of those kind of things with some European type impressionistic ways of playing. To other ways of comping, like Marcus Roberts using two-hand counter lines, multiple rhythms, going back and forth from drums, interactive way of playing. And the bass is the judicial branch of the government, right? The bass is the bottom note. It determines the direction and focus of the harmony, and it's also the four of the rhythm, like the bass in African music. The bass generally determines the harmonic direction, not the piano. Then the bass also is a sign of the integrity of the band if you don't have a guitar, because that's a soft instrument. If everybody else plays on top of it and disrespects it, you're showing me who you are. You're like how we are now. Look at our judicial branch. You know what I'm saying? Okay, what we doing? Then you got, once again, it's not left or right. I have to always be clear with younger people. It doesn't matter what you are. Trust me. It's green. It's neither side. Okay. Then the drums. That's the most complex instrument. It is the leader of the band, the conductor, the director. The drummer must be kind. And the drummer has to know the arrangement better than everyone. The drummer has to paint through the arrangement. And there's so many ways to play drums. I always suggest to drummers to study. There's been so many great, from Sonny Payne to Buddy Rich to Sam Woodyard, Louis Bellson, Joe Jones. All of these people represent styles and solutions to problems. Every one of them is a solution to a problem. So I tend to look at a rhythm section with how do they balance, and then ultimately, rhythm section's got to dance and be swinging, and it's hard to swing. As soon as people can get away from playing in four and make a part a slave, they want to do that. Why? It's easier to be a slave. Why is that? Because you don't have to, I'm now telling you what to do. So I give you the choice. Don't choose slavery. You want to go back to old Frederick Douglass? Choose to be free. If I have a bass player going boom, 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 boom. Okay, I know that's what the bass is gonna do. Boom, 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 boom. Great. Now a machine can do it. The drums now it's got that sound going. Now a machine can do it. Now I don't need people. That's the challenge for y'all. Everybody looking at machines all the time. What's the thing? Human beings, we imitate. Whatever we interact with, what makes us a superior species on earth is how great we imitate things. Now we're imitating phones. Why? It's how we are as people. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's a long answer. I'm trying to get detail for you to understand the depth of what we are listening to. Now I'm listening to rhythm section. Hammer is there, so I'm learning from him too. Ron is there. Well, what about this? Well, they need to blah, blah, blah. But that's how I'm looking at it. And it's got to be danceable. Difficult in this era because people no longer dance to this rhythm. It's tied to couples dancing. Why is it tied to couple dancing? Because it's the 3 against the 4. That's why. It's very simple answers to things that were organic in their development. Like the form of the blues, 12 bars, 12 months a year, 3 chords western. Why is that? Because no person sat down and figured it out. It was an organic form that grew. I like you. You're doing good, baby. You got it.
Thank you.
I'm not mad at you. You work on that. Okay? Yeah, you're right. Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How do you develop positive musical mentorships? And as a young lady, how do I successfully do that? I know you mentioned going over to John Faddis's house every day. Like, how am I doing that when majority of my possible mentors are of the opposite sex?
A person can be a mentor of any sex if they are a mentor. But there are also a lot of fantastic ladies. What do you play?
Saxophone.
You play saxophone. Okay, there are many ladies that can play saxophone. You find whose style you like. If they have to be a woman, Call them. John Faz didn't call me. One thing we have to do about our mentors and people we call, we go to their gigs, we meet them, we talk to them. Pursue people you want to learn from. Pursue them, talk to them. See if they're who you want to study with or could teach you something. You have to be known to them, and you have to let them know how serious you are. Now, if you can get in the room with the person you want to mentor you, when they give you something to do, the next time they see you, have that done. And they're going to like you. If they give you something to do and you don't do it, they're going to still like you, but they're not going to give you nothing else to do. Because people's time is limited. Another thing is that things generally are very direct. All the times I knew Fadis or Lou Soloff, or if I have to go into members of the opposite sex that mentored me, even though we didn't even get along, the person I looked at the most was Betty Carter. She was so direct when she talked to me. I'm not going to tell you all the stuff she was telling me. But if I would have been scared by the fact that she would cuss me out, then I would have lost the opportunity to really look and understand something about someone who was great. And always remember, too, that your mentors and people you choose, they have problems, too. They're not apostles, or they're people. Get what you need from the people you want to learn from. And the other stuff you don't need, don't get that from them. You know, if they like to do something you don't like to do, okay, I'll take this. Does that make sense? And that's what I suggest for you. And put your seriousness up on a certain level that you can't be denied. It's hard to make it in the arts. I was talking with one of my fantastic trumpet player, Anthony Hervey, last night, and we're talking about how hard it is to make it in jazz. I said, yeah, but think if you were a poet. You were sitting there saying, I'm going to be a poet. Man, I'd be looking at you saying, man, let's... Okay. But people are poets, and they struggle with there's a struggle out here. Does that make sense? Am I answering you with what you're saying? So I would say, write down a list of people you want to meet. Have some mentors that are male, some that are female, some black, some white, some Asian, some pick, whatever. Everybody's demographic nowadays. That's not new. I noticed when I started to go around the country in the 1980s and talk to colleges, every person who would stand up would identify themselves as a demographic. Oh, I'm a kid from the inner city, or I'm from the suburbs, or I'm an Asian. Okay, what's your question? When did you start playing trumpet? I say, well, let's see, how do I tell the answer to that to a kid from the inner city? Oh, I'm 6. How do I answer an X? Oh, I was 6 years old. Do you see what I'm saying? So we got to get beneath the demographics to the human, because that's where you will improve. The demographics will take you to a certain point. It's like you dap somebody and, yeah, what's happening, baby? Yeah, game, no game. But then after that, okay. Oh, okay, you can't play. You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. Now all of a sudden, game is different. It's like, yeah, I like all the dap and all, but man, we need to. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, so good luck. But pursue people. Don't be a drag to them, but you know what I mean? Let them know. Yes, ma'am. Good luck. Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
My question to you is, I want to know, as a new artist, how do you go about, what advice would you give about going about establishing yourself as part of this tradition and also adding on to this tradition?
You got to be to do. First, if you say you are part of it, you are part of it. That's first. Like I used to always say back when I could play a little bit of basketball, no matter how sad I am, I'm still a basketball player. I'm just a sad basketball player. Okay, if you are a trumpet player, it does not matter whether you can play or not. You're a trumpet player.
Right.
You're not playing heckelphone or whatever. So you are part of the tradition. Now, if you want to add on to it, whatever that means to add on to it, it's good luck. You got to be so serious about it. And you have to be so dedicated to your identity and your understanding and have so many insights. I never forget, on that first tour I went on, talking with Tony Williams. Man, the insights he had about playing drums. Just one thing he told me was, he said, My brother and I were talking about, is Tony's sound a result of a K-zillion or is it him? So we were arguing. We're saying, I'm not going to tell you who was on what side of the argument. But we played in a club in Japan, and he sat in. And it was some old raggedy cymbals. And when he started playing, we looked at each other and said, it's him. And he said he would hit a cymbal for 1 hour every day. And he said in the course of years of that hour, he started to learn things about that cymbal. He started to have insights into the cymbal and where he could hit it and how he could get different sounds out of it and how to become sympathetic with it and the things he figured out. To add on to things, you have to figure things out. What you figure out, only you know. No one can teach you what you will figure out. All they can do is give you the freedom to figure it out. So there you go. You're free to figure it out.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? Good luck. Right. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Marsalis.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Good. How you feeling?
I'm great, thanks. So I have 2 questions, if you don't mind. My first question is, people complain about money in politics, how that corrupts politics, everything from healthcare to climate change, etc.
Right.
So can this music exist without donors?
Yeah, I grew up with my father as a jazz musician. He never had a donor.
Mm-hmm.
I spent years in clubs with 3 and 4 people in it. He was playing jazz.
Mm-hmm.
He existed.
Mm-hmm.
So the music definitely can exist without donors.
Mm-hmm.
You go around the world and you see people playing jazz in some of the most unexpected places. Most of them don't have donors.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot exist without an audience.
Right.
But even then, you can play it in your house.
Mm-hmm.
No one can stop you from playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up the way I did, seeing the struggles my father and Alvin Batiste and James Black, they struggled.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they struggled with the music. But they believed in it. I remember once asking my father, man, why do you keep playing this?
Mm-hmm.
Me and my brother were in a funk band. We had a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have nobody. He could play. Man, why do you keep doing this? Nobody likes this music.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Yeah, but is that enough? For me, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But this stuff is, man, shut up and listen to the music. That was him to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'm gonna give you a tree that I want you to think about. Your business,
Mm-hmm.
you have politics, you have religion, and you have civics. Mm-hmm. And a part of civics is education and health. Everything cannot be a business.
Right.
If every interaction I have with you is transactional,
Mm-hmm.
man, we're gonna have a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I just gave you some advice. Where's my $20?
Right.
Everything cannot be transactional.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a donor is. A donor is somebody that says, I don't want this to be transactional. It could be you teaching some kids in your neighborhood for no money.
Mm-hmm.
It could be you and the teachers you know and people who've done stuff for you. It was nothing transactional in your relationship with them. They liked you, you did some work. Yeah, come back and I'll give you these books.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you can make things exist just by using your personal power.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us don't like to do that because we like to look around and see other people and it makes us feel like, okay, this is the right thing to do, right? Some of the dumbest things in the world have been done with that. Mm-hmm. As the numbers get larger and larger, the level of stupidity goes higher and higher. Mm-hmm. Now, once you get a whole nation mobilized around something unbelievably stupid, man, everybody's looking around. That was great, right? Mm-hmm. Then you can't tolerate anybody saying something different. Mm-hmm. If you doubt it, go back and study what happened in this country after we attacked Iraq. Once again, it's not about administration. Whatever the administration was, what it was. Mm-hmm. Then there was an intolerance for a conversation of we should not have done that. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah, I'm following.
So I think, you said you had 2 questions. In terms of donors, and the music can exist, mm-hmm. but it's good to have donors, and it's good to seek donors and to seek people who want to be a part of what you're doing. That if you have a vision, it's important to find people who help you with that vision, and you too can be, and maybe you are even now a donor. Mm-hmm. Every time you did anything for nothing or you contributed something, you were a donor.
Right. Yep.
Your parents have donated to you for a long time. That's the greatest level of donoring. This many times unthanked and vilified donorship.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let me vilify my donor, okay? It's interesting, but that too is an American thing that seems to be very popular,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Thanks. Can I ask another question?
Yes, I'm gonna be brief, yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think the solution is to the jazz, I guess what you could call epidemic of way more supply than demand in terms of jazz schools pumping out a lot of students and the audience not being quite comparable, and then how that ties into venues and available work and et cetera?
Some of those students creating venues, some of those students creating audience, some of those students teaching, some of those students writing books on the music, some of those students critiquing. I think you can never have enough jazz students. So many people study a subject and then they go on to something else. Not just jazz. You can look through the academic roster and you'll find things that people study and they go on to other things. And our field is considered a crime to do that. The only thing I would suggest to people who are studying the music, think, where can I use this music to help with what I'm trying to do, and how can I use what I've learned through this music to help the world at large, our country, and you're gonna find many opportunities that are not all playing. It's hard there are very few spots playing because you have to walk into a room and change the feeling of a group of people with your sound. You don't have a light show, you don't have a lot of stuff. You don't have all of that stuff. That's a smaller number. But you can have tremendous impact in many ways if you believe in the music enough. And if you look in your own education, in your own life, you'll see a lot of people who have contributed to your education and your knowledge that were probably not the recording artist or this or the such and such famous so-and-so, just a person who was invested in you and taught you these things and the secrets and truths that are in our music. Does that?
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Mr. Marsalis, you're probably the greatest spokesperson for jazz, perhaps, right now, and we all admire and love you and know that what you're doing here with this competition, with Essentially Ellington, with all of your efforts over the years, you're giving back to the music in a huge way. It's really it's a follow-up question for what he was asking. What can we do for the music? What do you charge us to do to grow the audience, to educate people? This is part of the future of jazz right here. What can we do?
You all are going to see things that I will never see. Todd Stoll and I, we've been knowing each other 30-something years. I was telling you about with Tony, with Ira, with Bill. We've been out here, man. And we see each other. Terrell, he's younger, but still, now we're not as young as we were. Okay. And we love the music, and we have lived the music and inhabited it. For me, I have loved being a part of the music.
Yeah.
And so many people are a part of everything that we do. Building this hall. I didn't build the hall. We all built it. It was a community of people. Todd was teaching kids and doing all of what he was doing. It didn't have nothing to do with me. I met him. I knew him. I love him. We could come together and say, man, what can we do with our kids? We can go back to 1988 and start, what were we talking about in 1988? About how can we get kids into this music? We had a meeting yesterday where a young guy was 37 years old. Man, he was brilliant. Todd and I were sitting up in the meeting. We were like, man, we were saying today, we need to go call him and write down a bunch of questions and ask him to answer them for us.
Yeah.
You will know things we don't know. You're going to see things we cannot see. I don't know.
Right.
All I can say is the country needs y'all, and it needs the consciousness of jazz. It needs to be integrated because the world needs to be integrated.
Yes.
Why does the world need to be integrated? Everybody knows diversity in your gene pool makes you stronger.
Yes.
Diversity in your ideas makes you stronger. We were talking the other day about affirmative action. I said, affirmative action means I am willing to let you be sad for as long as you have to be to get good. Art Blakey practiced affirmative action with me. I could not play when I played in his band. The first solo I played with him was on Along Came Betty. I never played in a song that changed keys like that. Even with my daddy, I was too ignorant to learn what he Man, I was just playing Flight of the Bumblebee. I don't know what I played. I played so sad, and I didn't want to stop playing because when you're sad, the silence is sad. So man, when I finished playing, we played the tune. When we got off the bandstand, he looked at me, he got right in my face and said, "You're sad." But it was so true that I went, because I grew up in jazz. So, my daddy would tell you were sad too. It wasn't like I thought jazz musicians weren't smiling and making sure you felt okay with the word, "You're sad." But the way he said it was so direct and true and real, and I was sad. He said, "But that's okay, because you may learn how to play." Okay, so I say, we're looking for y'all to teach us. But if you see something that you can get in, you see opportunities, pursue them. Get around the people you admire. You bring your energy to stuff, and don't get discouraged. You have ideas, man, they're not going to work out. People are going to tell you things that are going to be hurtful. Do not get discouraged. I have a thing that my great uncle, he was born in 1883. He was a stone cutter for the cemetery in New Orleans. I lived with him when I was 6, so it was instrumental in my life, living with him for that year, because he didn't have cold water. He did everything by hand. It's like he was living like somebody in the 1800s. And he was a very hard worker, but he carved in a stone, "Don't be discouraged." But he ran out of room for the D. So it says, "Don't be discouraged." And I keep that, and I always think about it, because I think of the distance he came. That's a long distance, man. 1883 in America was almost as bad as it is now. He said 1883. So I thought, okay, don't be discouraged. So that's the thing I have to tell y'all. Do not be discouraged with your ideas, your thoughts, your creativity. We need y'all to come out here with fire, because it's not out here. So be empowered to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And come to us. We have been here. We're in the House of Swing. And believe me, we've been here look at old Max. It's been good 40 years. And I'm looking at him, 40 years I've been knowing him. Okay, we out here. We didn't just meet each other tomorrow. When I see this man, I'm like, okay, man, we still here. Yes. So when we look at you, we see what you're saying. We need y'all to be strong and powerful. And we're going to clash. Okay, we clash. But we have the same thing we love. We're looking at the same objective. Yes. So though we clash, we're saying, give the baby away. Don't cut it in half.
Yes.
It's important to remember that lesson,
Thank you, sir.
Man, I want to see some ID. Are you a director?
I'm just a combo director. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I was about to say, you're not in college. That's a mature beard you got there. Yes, yes.
Hi, Mr. Marsalis.
How you doing?
I just want to ask, when you listen to someone new play, like in the first time you hear them, what are some things that you listen for?
Okay. I tend to listen to people in categories. The first thing I try to see their physical relationship to the rhythm section, to who they're playing with, the level of their manners. Do they have good manners? Are they sympathetic with people who are going? Then I start to listen to the quality of their idea. What's the quality of their idea? What are they trying to communicate? Then as they play, I start to follow what they're playing. Do they have thematic development? Are they playing with a level of commitment and feeling? Then I start to listen to their it's a spiritual thing, like it's a passion. Even if they can't play, some of the best musicians I've heard couldn't play. But it's just, the way they playing, it's just, like an elementary school band. Man, I would go 100 miles to hear a good elementary school band. I just like looking at them, and they just, man, you just have to look at the commitment of it and the vibe, the feeling that comes out of it. Like, I like to just co-sign them, and be like, ooh, the clarinets start tooting and squeaking and trumpets. Oh. Man, if you can be an adult and play with that feeling, I love you. Okay, then I start to listen to technical things. You know what the progression is, what you're trying to do harmonically, rhythmically, your level of interaction. Then I start listening to how much history you know, what type of time you're playing in. And then I go into I just start to go down, kind of like I would notice my daddy and them would do that when they were When I was growing up, I'd see them listening to something on the radio. And then at that time, I couldn't tell people by their sound. But then they would be listening, they'd be like, is that Frog? I always like the nicknames, you know, is that Frog? Yeah, that's Frog. No, man, that ain't Frog, man. That's Buck. That ain't Buck, man, that's Frog. Then the person would say, oh, you know, that's Ben Webster. I told you that was Frog. So I like that kind of listening, where it's really personal. You can tell what people are playing and you. Did that?
Yeah. Thank you.
Handle your business. Good to see you. Good to see you. Fareed.
Hey, Mr. Marsalis, my question is, what would be your advice to the young trumpet players of today?
Listen to Terrell. You know, just be about our instrument, the spirit of it. That's why we always evoke all of our great. You got a great teacher. He got the whole feeling with him. Listen to him. You're lucky, you know, to be around him. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
The dedication he has, how he developed, grow, the seriousness that he has, the way y'all love him, we all love him like that.
Yeah.
Because he, you know, made out of gold. He walking around with gold dust. I'm going to go scrape something off him so we can help pay our rent for next month. Okay, be about our instrument and always learn about it. That's why I always like to evoke Lou Soloff's name. Man, Lou Soloff loved the trumpet. You know, it's like something you couldn't believe. And when you get around the trumpet players, it's important for us to be together too and have that respect. We joke around in our band, you know, trumpets versus trombones and the reeds and all that. We just playing. But it's playful, but it's fun. You know, we trumpet players. You know, we got to be loud and ignorant sometimes. We play trumpet. But be about our instrument, our pedagogy, our history. You know, we're talking about Francis Johnson and all other people. Know our lineage, not just jazz. Know our lineage. Know where our instrument is coming from. They don't mention the saxophone in the Bible. The trumpet is in there. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I'm just playing. I'm just joking. Not really. I'm a trumpet. I can't help it. It's a certain thing comes with playing trumpet. We can't help that. Yeah.
Hello.
Are you in college?
I'm in college, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, junior.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was in John Riley's class this past week, and he was describing what his sort of path was to where he is now. Now, he thought he'd be the next Tony, you know, but he's John Riley, and that's totally fine. And then he went on to describe the years of playing, you know, gigs that he didn't seem to enjoy. And, you know, he was working his butt off to do that. And it just kind of started to feel a little depressing to me. Well, I clearly knew that's not what I want to do. I write music I love, and I want to play that music and still not, you know, be homeless and eat healthy food. And so I asked my teacher, John Faddis, in lesson, like, can I actually make a living in this music as a band leader? And he said, do you write? I said, yes. Do you write good? Yes. And then do that. So people say that, but I don't see how does that turn into a living and still not sacrificing, you know, what you love to do. Also, if you're a band leader in this age, as a college student, what would you do?
I'm going to tell you what my daddy told me. I saw my father struggle my entire life. It's not joke struggle. Struggle. Man. It's like just, you know, you just do something for years and he was never negative. He was never mad at the music because he didn't make a living really, struggle with his kids. Wasn't mad because he worked gigs till 2 and 3 that paid. Me and my brother made more than him per night playing. I was 13, we couldn't play. Never transmitted bitterness about the music. Taught us, me, him, Terrence Blanchard, Harry Connick, the list goes on of people he taught. Never taught us bitterness. Man, when I was a senior in high school, I made really good grades. I had scholarships to all kind of places, not for music. All my teachers, I'm from South New Orleans. Culture in New Orleans is the New Orleans Saints. So there's a level of just absolute ignorance about music. We use the name jazz, but not really. Everybody was like, don't go into music. Don't waste your brain on music. Don't be a musician. you're going to struggle just like your daddy. Even my mom was like, man, it's a struggle out here with this music. You sure you want to do that? I went to my daddy. I said, man, you think I should go into this? He said, well, man, you know, do you want to go into it? I said, yeah, man. He said, this is hard, man. I said, yeah. He said, you up to how hard it is? I said, I don't know. He said, well, I got one piece of advice for you. Don't have nothing to fall back on. That was his advice. Now, he gave me another piece of advice. When I left home, it was kind of contentious. I had been arguing and fighting with my mama for years. I had all my stuff in a box. My daddy, as I was walking out the door defiantly, y'all not ever gonna see me again. Kiss my behind. This was a rough time I had in here with y'all. He said, hey, man, is that your stuff in that box? I said, yeah. He said, what you got in there? I said, some jeans, a boom box. Then we had boom boxes and some cassettes. He said, you all right? I said, yeah, I'm all right. He said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm all right, man. He said, you got anything else? I said, I got some books in there. He said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. He said, remember, you can always go back to what's in this box, and you're okay. Life is struggle. Sometimes you make it. Sometimes you're known. Sometimes you can buy a lot of things. Sometimes you can't. Your success as a human being cannot be based on what you can buy. Because if that's the case, most of the world is unsuccessful. And everybody is fighting just to be able to buy things. Playing this music is not about that. Okay? It's easy for me to say now. But when I was in John Faddis's house every night, I didn't have a dime. I wanted to learn how to play. You know, so my advice to you is, if you're for real about it, be for real. Anybody gonna give you a guarantee. You may not know if you're for real until you get to be 45. If you're lucky to have that test at that old of an age, answer it for yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Handle your business. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Marsalis.
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering what advice you have to young musicians about dealing with, and more importantly, overcoming performance anxiety and anxieties that come along with being a musician.
Man, I wish I could answer that. I'm afraid to fly. Phew, man, you can go to any kind of coaching, you can anything, but when I get in that airplane, so whenever somebody asks me that, I always go to the thing I really don't want to do and apply it to if I were like that about playing. You're gonna be nervous, you're in front of people. You have to do something very specific. The only thing I could give you that's of any advice is accept the situation. And that's only my advice. I know it's not psychologically approved. What do I do when I'm in that plane? I'm here. There you go. It is very simple. I remember when I played the Haydn Trumpet Concerto with the New Orleans Philharmonic, I was 14. Man, you can't believe how nervous I was. I never played with a symphony orchestra, I'm playing, and I was backstage, and I was just, man, I'm coming from playing Earth, Wind, and Fire tunes, and, you know, Stevie's music. Now I got to play this in front of these people. I go out there, man, I'm looking into the window, and the manager of the orchestra at that time was a lady named Miriam Yardumian. And she came backstage and she said, nervous? Of course, I was playing it off. Nah, I'm not nervous. I'm too cool to be nervous. I'm not nervous. She looked at me and she said, look out that window. I looked out the window. She said, you see all those people on the street? I said, yeah. She said, no matter how sad you sound, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. They're not going to have any knowledge of that. Now, do you have any idea how I sounded then? No. So now I lie about it and say I sounded good. Don't worry about it. Just accept where you are. I'm here, I'm playing, I'm going to play, I've practiced, I'm qualified to play, and I'm nervous, and I'm going to survive this because I'm not in an aircraft being shot at. This is not a life or death issue. I'm just playing music for people, and then play. And then when it's over, that was great. And just keep doing it. And the more you repeat it, that's my best advice. But I'm not, you know, I know there's all kind of stuff that the people have, but I say that's what I wish I could be more helpful.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
It was very helpful.
Thank you. Yes.
I was wondering if you could tell us a story about a moment in your life that either like changed your life or was like a turning point in your life, a really important moment.
You know, I mean, I'll tell you a real moment. That for me, when I was growing up, my mother was always complaining about we didn't have money. We don't have money. We don't have money. So my father, at one point, he said, okay, I'm going to stop playing music and drive a cab. So we had one of the 3 family meetings we had in my entire time of growing up. And my father said, you know, I decided I'm going to drive a cab. So it means XXXXX. We were listening to it. And my mama said, no, we don't. You shouldn't drive a cab. You're a musician. You know, just keep being a musician. I didn't grow up with nothing. I don't care, you know. So me and my brother looked at it like, damn, she complaining about money all the time. And now she don't care. And then I understood just something about what a belief of something is. I understood something about my mom and daddy I didn't understand. Because I only, as a kid, I could only see, you know, fighting or whatever. I could only perceive a small portion of the truth of their relationship. I never thought of them as being people. I only thought, yes, my mama, that's my daddy. Then for some reason at that time, I don't know, I was 11, I don't know what age I was, but I could perceive them as people. And in those people, I could see kind of, hey, this is really a struggle, and they really don't know what's going on. And it's something of a beauty in that. Like it's not, everything is not mapped out. He don't actually know. She doesn't actually know, and we're here. And that was a turning point in my life. Then it made me not feel like I had to always know what's going on and just how to. And he kept playing, you know. He got a gig like the next day doing something. I mean, it wasn't a great gig, but it was. And he was standing in a grocery line thinking about, man, how am I going? Maybe I'm going to get some food stamps tomorrow. And somebody came to him and said, hey, man, there's a gig somewhere. It wasn't playing jazz, just a gig. He said, okay, man, I need a gig. I'm definitely doing it. And I think that moment, you know, I go back to that. And another unbelievable moment for me in my life was one night, I was at a club called Wynton Marsalis, and my father was playing. And it was like 2:30, 2 o'clock. You know, back then I grew up in clubs, so it was always 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock, gigs would be over. And there was one person in the club was drunk. And I went to my father, I was like, man, let's go, man. We got like a 30-minute drive home. Man, let's go, man. And then I never really listened to the music. I was always playing darts or listening to older people talk nasty or, you know, something I was interested in had nothing to do with music. My daddy, I went to the piano. He said, man, go sit down and listen to the music. And I pointed to the drunk gentleman. I said, man, come on, man. And people would be embarrassed in some instances, but he looked at me and he said, hey, man, go sit your ass down and listen to this music for a change. And, you know, that's like of all the years, and I've been going to gigs since I was 3. That was the first time I sat down, and I just sat. And for that 30 minutes, I just listened to him play. And I had heard him play, of course, growing up. He practiced. I hear him play. But I took his playing for granted. Like, it's just what he did. And he didn't make money doing it, so okay. Then I was listening to him, and I started looking around the club thinking, man, you know, I never noticed, you know, just the size of the club. And I started thinking to myself, what makes a person want to sit in a club between 2 o'clock and 2:30 and play for nobody except their own kid that don't want to hear it? And instead of it being sad, then I started to see him a different way. You know, okay. And I kid you not, that many times I walk on stages, even at this age, and throughout my life, when I've been in important concerts or places that are supposed to be big, or by important, I mean the size of it, not so much who it is. And when I walk out, that's what I think about. I think about that one single night when I looked at him and I think of the way he was playing. Do you know? So that's what it taught me something about a belief. Like when you believe in something, that's what you believe in. You don't believe in it because everybody else believe in it? And he was trying to play, too. That's the other thing that shocked me. I said, man, okay, you playing for me. That's a lot to be playing for somebody who don't want to hear it. And I go back to that. Thank you. Yes. Yes, sir.
Mr. Marsalis, I go to school in Texas, and New York City is some place that I've debated moving to for a good amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know what are some advantages to moving to New York as opposed to any other place?
You have to spend a lot more money to live here. This is probably now as segregated as Texas. Now, when I came here, no. This is a lot of people here, a lot of energy, a lot of media, a lot of people who are doing what you do. What do you play?
Trumpet.
You're a trumpet player. There's a lot of trumpet players. There are a lot of scenes here. I think this is a good experience to have. But I think what we need in the music is people all over the world. We need people in Texas. Don't tell Willie Nelson I told you that. Because we're always messing with Louisiana, Texas. You know, we taught y'all what to do with catfish. I think we need you wherever you go. Here is very competitive. Everybody comes here because people used to come here. So I never want to tell somebody, don't come here, because this is a center of a lot of things. But we need you in Texas too. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or we need you in Illinois. We need you in Utah. We need you in North Carolina. We need you in Missouri. We need you in California. We need you in Washington. We need you in Australia. We need you in South Africa. We need you in Vienna. You understand what I'm telling you? Yeah. We need you up in Scandinavia. So don't not come here, but we need you. For all of y'all, look around the world and see where you think you could be. You can go anywhere now, if you can get there. Does that make? Yeah. Look at the world that way. Cool. Where do I want to go, and where am I needed?
Thank you.
It's good to meet you. Have a good Texas. You know, I always loved Texas. I had a trumpet player I went to camp with when I was 15. There's a big guy named John Holt. We called him Big Tex. He was such a friendly guy. Even though Louisiana and Texas have a little feud, it made me love Texas. So I still love it. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, man. Good.
Thank God that I can have a chance to, talk to you. And also thank God that I can actually live in North Carolina. So you said I was needed, or possibly.
Yeah,
hopefully, maybe.
No, you need it.
Okay.
Whether you choose to exercise
I like the space. There's a lot of space in North Carolina.
You need
Not
it
so
there.
much in New York.
You need it there. You need it there, man.
I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a student, but I also teach.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of issues that I have is not necessarily with the kids. I mean, at first, when you introduce the type of music, they're a little reluctant to listen to it because it's brand new. Mm-hmm. But the more you expose it to them, it's like they become familiar, and they really take it in. Mm-hmm. But then it comes the issue of getting others to support your goal. I realize that on the teaching side, eventually you need other people to kind of support what you're doing. And my question is, how do you communicate effectively to others that may not see music or the music program as a priority, and has the responsibility to fund and support the program?
You know how somebody will convince you of something? And you know people have convinced you of stuff. Somebody convinced you of whatever. Man, did you read this book? Check this out. Hey, you got to that book yet? It doesn't matter what it is. They convince you of something. Let's go see a so-and-so game, or let's go check out this movie. Man, I don't like these guys. Man, come on, man, you got to see this movie. You know how just basic somebody is when they're trying to get you to do something? And sometimes they're successful. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes People try to get you to do stuff and you're not going to do it. I don't mean something stupid that could kill you. I mean just a book, or find that thing in you just like that and think of the times that you have convinced people to do things and do that to those people. You've convinced people to do stuff. I don't know what you've convinced them to do, but we all have. It could be you convince your parents to get you buy something, or, it could be whatever. I don't know what it is. But it's something in you that's like enthusiasm, optimism, hopeful, blah, blah, blah. And you put all that on to convince them. When you deal with your parents and your groups, figure out who you want to get to do stuff and ask them to do something that they can do. That's a lot of times the key to getting someone to do something. Ask them to do something they can do. If you start asking people to do something they can't do, they're not going to do it. You say, hey, man, can I spend the night in your house? I'm locked out of my apartment. Yeah, man, okay. Hey, man, can I spend a month? No, man. You see what I'm saying? That month, no. A week? Don't ask me for the week before you ask for the day. You see what I'm saying? And then come with that humility and ask people. A lot of times we struggle asking because we don't want to be told no. I was telling my daughter last night how hard it was when you be at a dance in New Orleans in the 70s. You go to a girl and ask them if they would dance with you. And we had a hospital in New Orleans called Charity. And they would say, Charity is a hospital. And you had to just walk away. And you'd be like, man, that was pretty cold. Well, you're getting weeded out. You got to go to the next. And if you want to dance, you got to ask. It's something about humility. Humility. And when you're asking people, it's a humility you have to have. Does that make sense? Yes. And also, why should I support what you're telling me to support? Tell them what you're doing. We're doing this, we're doing that. You get to do this, blah, 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 for you. And you're teaching, you're dealing with people's kids, so they're disposed to do something. No matter the type of community. Another thing in my experience traveling around the country all these years is when you go to some of the worst schools, if they have a real good parents club, the kids are doing much better. When that one teacher who was able to recruit those parents leaves, that program goes down. So go to people. Another thing that's important is go to people and look at them and talk to them. Don't soften it. Don't soften the blow. Talk to them. Like how me and you looking at each other, that's what it comes down to. Hey, we have this program from 3 to 4, and I need you to drive, or I need you, I'm putting my volunteer corps together. Would you consider doing X between this time and this time? This will help these students. Here's some pictures of this. Look at this. Check them out. Man, look at this right here. And we're going to have a concert on the 3rd or the 4th or something. We're going to recognize everybody. Go to the church on them. I want to thank Miss Inez Johnson for the beautiful rum cake she cooked for the church. You see what I'm saying? Go home, and people will respond to that. Just like me and you talk to each other, right? I come to you, I ain't afraid of talking to you. I ain't afraid. I come to you, I say, hey, man, you got to realize, when I would go to the worst schools in the country, one thing I would do with the roughest kids, I would always get like the most hard-headed kid. I put my hand on them. Boy, they didn't like that. Get your hand off me. Then I put it back up there. And this be somebody, with the whole uniform on, the menstrual uniform, whatever it happens to be at the time. You gotta remember, man, really bad school. They say, man, these kids might take your watch from you. They ain't gonna take my watch. Then after a while, I noticed that kid, they be big. They start to think, okay, I never really had a man touch me like that with this kind of vibe. It's all in that hand. I start calling them son. They don't want to hear that. Man, you talking about son. Then after like that 3rd or 4th time, they start to, okay. I don't say nothing to them. They don't know. I just, hey, man, and such and such. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay. Because human feeling has a weight. The deepest thing you have is the weight of your feeling. Put the weight of your feeling on people with humility, and you're going to see they're going to come around you because of what we all want.
Thank you. Is there a book for the hand method?
No, you can't touch kids now. I had a group the other day, and the principal said, "You can't touch these kids." I said, "You can take them out because I'm touching them." I'm sorry, I can't, I'm not going to touch them inappropriately, but I'm touching them. I'm putting my hand on their shoulders. If you don't want them in here, y'all can leave. We can have a robot come in next week, and the robot's not going to touch nobody. Yes?
Hello, Mr. Marsalis. I had a question about how did your classical studies influence your jazz playing, and how did your jazz studies influence your classical playing?
That's a good question. My studying of the trumpet, which is not classical music, just the Arbon book and the Schlossberg, it helped me to organize my technical skills. Like I looked at the front of the Arbon book and saw like kind of how all the slur exercise, tonguing, and all the things that breaks down the technique. So I would practice each one of my techniques every day, and grade myself and try to figure out how to get better at that. So that was one way. In terms of then dealing with classical music, well, I came into the music through Haydn, listening to the trumpet concerto. It's so clearly written. It's such a masterpiece, which I didn't know at that time. But just how the form was laid out, the logic of it, how clean it is. Just to play that piece and have to study it and learn it and the sing song. Then I got from that into Beethoven. I went to art school. We studied all the Bach chorales and analyzing that, and Beethoven symphonies. I had an unbelievable teacher named Bert Bro. He passed away, but it was a blessing to us. Then I was able to study the music and read about it. With jazz, I always was around my father and all the jazz musicians. So I brought that sensibility to classical music. Like I understood about soloing and making up music and improvising and songs and chord changes. That was always kind of the dialogue I was around. So I started to you always integrate and combine your knowledge and your skill, no matter what it is in. It's the way a human being is born, right? You're the integration of your mother and father. Now all of that genetic information comes together with a new person. And that replicates itself in everything that we see in nature. One thing comes together with another thing, and then a new thing is. So in that way, I started to use different knowledges from different ones. But both helped me. Then at a certain point in terms of playing classical music, I felt I couldn't keep my performance level up to a certain, and also develop, trying to learn how to play jazz. So I stopped playing classical music. But the one blessing I always had was the ability to hear it. So then if I want to listen to Shostakovich Symphony, I want to listen to Palestrina's music. If I want to hear whoever's music, down to the most contemporary pieces, I've developed that hearing. And your hearing ability is also you cross-pollinate with your hearing ability. Like, if you can hear what flamenco music, the form of that is, it helps you understand more about who you are. But it's hard to hear it. So, you learn that it takes time to understand things too. And I don't know if I answered you good, but I think both things have helped. When I play classical music, then I had another sense of rhythm and form from playing jazz. So when I'm playing a piece of music, I'm always listening to what is the background, what is the foreground, who's responding to me, what is the bass doing? Because that's what you do when you play jazz. This is in 2 and 3. And trumpet players, we're always either playing fanfares or we're playing some type of lyrical. That's all they ever give us. Something is going to happen, and then you know what I mean? Yeah. So in that way, the ability to play jazz helped me perceive form and logic and construction. And another way that jazz helped me play classical music is that jazz is very conversational. So because you're responsible for inventing something conversational, when you see a composer has written something, you start to notice, oh, this is conversational. So I say, dee, 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 bo, dee, 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 dee. I used to always go to get in a mirror and sing my parts. I would sing me, and then I would sing the other parts, and I would give them a stupid character or something, and then the bass was boom, 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 and I go, boom, 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 boom. Just a little. It's crazy, but sometimes I tell people to do that. Inhabit your part in classical music. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Inhabit your part. You're only in your room alone, close the door and lock it. Get in a good mirror and start singing all the parts. Make it conversational, right? Mm-hmm. No matter the style of music, most of the time, no matter the style of music, people want it to be conversational. So those are the ways. Where are you from?
Texas.
There you go. See that? That's my good Texas. I love Texas. Texas. You're a trumpet player, right? Yeah. All Texas trumpet players always. Yes.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you could talk about what it was like working on Sesame Street and what the show means to you.
Man, I mean, I love Sesame Street. And all the team of musicians that work on the music. The first time I worked on Sesame Street was in the 80s or the early 90s. And the puppeteers, everybody. Even people are nice. And they have the job, they're making all these great songs up. So I remember one good story I'll tell you. First, it's great. And then they're so professional with how they do everything, and the level of skill of the singing and the ability of Big Bird. And, you know, man, it's unbelievable how quick they catch on to things, and how just it's much difficult than you think. Like, you think it's just this and that, but boy, if you ever try to do it, you'd be like, ooh. I got a call and said, hey, we're doing something for the Duck Ellington Orchestra. Could you come in and do orchestration of the Duck Ellington Orchestra? So, you know, we're talking. Then maybe I was younger than everybody then at that time. I don't know, maybe 28 or something. And said, oh, man, yeah, I'd love to do that. So we came in and we started working. And everything was laid out on a soundboard. They said, now, these are the pigs right here. And these are the ducks, and these are the boom. We went through all the animals. So I said, okay, put the ducks right here. Put the pigs right there. Let's do this. Let's put a riff with. So I said, man, it's going to take us like an hour. So I had written out kind of what I wanted to do. Man, damn thing took us 2 days. And so even just recently, one of the gentlemen that we work with, I don't remember his name, unfortunately. This is 30 years ago. I just recently saw him because we did a big Sesame Street show here. He said, you remember the Duck Ellington Orchestra? I said, man, I'll never forget old Duck Ellington. He said, it took us 2 days. So that's what it's like. You know, it's very collegial. And I mean, they're great, man.
Cool, thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, Mr. Marsalis. I'd just like to say thank you for providing us the opportunity, including myself, to be able to speak to you and to gain access to your advice over the years. I did want to ask you, how do you translate everything that we practice, scales, arpeggios, technique, everything that we use to design our craft, and translate that into emotion and soul, something that we feel?
All of that has emotion and soul. There's no separation of that. If I ask you to divide out your emotion from anything you do, can you do that?
Probably not.
Think about it, how impossible that is. You have to make yourself be impassive. Think about how hard it is to just stare at something. Think about how difficult it is to have no opinion about anything that somebody is telling you. Even when you're telling yourself to shut up, you can't help it. Let me just be quiet. I sit on my lips when I get mad because I have to unfold my lips to open my mouth. And still, I'm going to open it and say something stupid I don't want to say. Well, you know, don't separate emotion from anything. Don't separate a human being. You're integrated as a person. Activate other aspects of yourself. Like you want to do push-ups if you want to develop muscles, or if you want to, you say, man, I need to develop muscles. You don't think, how can I separate my muscles out to develop them? Let me do some push-ups. Then when you go to do those push-ups, you say, man, I don't feel like doing this. That's your emotion. Then you say, well, let me take my shirt off. Okay, let me do these push-ups. And a scale, an exercise, all of that is music. I always recommend never play anything that's music in a non-musical fashion. Play everything that is music musically, all the time. Sometimes I tell Ryan Kaiser, because I've had the blessing of playing next to him for all these years. What could I say about this guy's integrity? Man, we could be playing in a hall with 200 people in a 1,100 seat hall. And we'll have a part that goes, dee, and he'll go, boo. when we finish hitting that note, I always hit him on his leg. Whenever he plays something, I go, damn, man, that note. Like, it's just one note, a whole note. Man, we up here to play. So you know what I mean? Don't separate it.
Absolutely.
Play. It's all one thing. Everything you're doing is always all one thing. If you have good manners, that's one thing. Everything in your experience is one thing. Even for me talking to you. Now, I'm 58. But I still, when I see John Faddis, it's still like I'm 18. Why? That's how life is. That's why you don't want to live too long. You know, because your parents will be a certain age, your kids will be aggravating you, you're going to be 90, you still being aggravated by a 70-year-old. You don't want that. It's going to drive you crazy. Okay? But did that answer your question?
Yes.
Integrate everything you do all the time. Yes, sir.
Hello, Mr. Marsalis.
Yes, sir.
My question is, when you were developing your own voice, whether that be when you were a teenager or mid-20s, how did you balance between developing what you wanted out of your improvisation and what you felt others wanted, that you wanted to play with, the people that you wanted to play with, or that may have been older?
You know, for me, the older musicians were always resources. Mm-hmm. So I never thought of what did I feel like that they wanted to hear out of my playing, because like they will always empower me to play better. Mm-hmm. I never felt an imposition. I grew up in the jazz tradition, so you know the musicians were always telling you what to play. Mm-hmm. And for my own playing, I was always critiquing it myself. Like I would be rushing. I didn't like my sound. I didn't. I had my list of what I was always trying to improve. My harmonic sophistication, I didn't play with a certain depth of blues feeling and knowledge of me. I grew up playing funk mainly. I knew the music because I was from New Orleans, but I didn't really have those teen years of doing that. Wasn't the styles of music that we play. How can I learn how to play with this type of depth, or I play the ballads, or not going to double time on everything. You know, I had things, a list of things. I'm still working on stuff. Not rushing, not playing something stupid. You know, just always be patient. You know, but I never saw the older people ever as an impediment. But my generation was more on the road to you alls, where like older people are enemies. They weren't enemies for us. We were on the way to that. I mean, it was, you know, a celebration of youth for no reason. But the kind of vibe of being against John Lewis or Elvin or, you know, much younger people like John Faddis, I was never, anything he told me, I was listening to it. He used to say, and he would not only tell you about music, he was also about being on time. In order to be on time, one must be early. So I can remember, he's laughing, I can remember like the things he would tell me, and not just about music. And you can pick and choose what you want from what people tell you. I was forcing you to. You know, even your parents, once they can't beat you, they can't force you. If I could beat you, I could force you. I could beat you. Once I can't beat you, I got to reason with you. You know, now I'm reasoning with you, and you know, you make your decisions you make. I always say, did I do what my mama told me to do? Man, I'd have been a lot better off in a lot of ways if I had, but I didn't. I wouldn't have been me. So that goes to your question. You are you already. You already have your way you play. You already have your style. You already have all those things. Magnify the things you like and diminish those that you don't like. When people give you advice, if you want to take it, take it. If you don't want to take it, don't take it. It's not complicated. You can be polite the whole time. Thank you very much. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? Right. Try to live your life with as little angst as possible. Yeah. You don't have to be angsty about stuff. If somebody fire you from a job, you can be cool about it. Okay, you fire me. I'll see you. If you have to fire somebody, you don't have to cuss them out, berate them. Just say, we got to let you go. Okay? You know, life is just take that straight line. Try as much as you can. It's going to make stuff much simpler. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I know I answered your question. The older musicians taught me all kind of stuff, man. I was always around them. Clark Terry, Sweets, and whoever. You know, John and I were talking about Dizzy last night. He was always had advice, stuff he would tell you. And if you listen, you can learn. You know, if not, you can still be you. You know, I try to tell Isaiah stuff, he don't listen. Doesn't matter. I still love him. Jonah, hard-headed, you know. They don't like to listen. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm with you. I like your hairstyle. I like that. Yes.
Hi. I was just wondering, I feel like younger musicians often are put in a position where they're, maybe not always, there's exceptions, but sometimes we'll be told like, hey, don't say your opinion on the gig or on how somebody treats you on the bandstand because, you know, you don't have this gig yet or you don't have this certain rank, so you don't want to like lose your spot or, you know, have something that you're genuinely concerned about end up kind of blowing up in your face.
Right.
But sometimes I think, and mostly I think it's coming from a good place, but sometimes I feel like that leads to situations where either directors or professors or people on the bandstand can sometimes just be like, I guess, like abusive in like some ways towards their colleagues. And I was wondering if you've had to deal with that or like how you would deal with that.
Man, you know, we're from different generations, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you being cussed out or that's normal. I mean, you know, you can't make a person who grew up with a certain thing not have grown up with that. So for you to be abusive to me, you really had to be abusing me.
Yeah.
Like, it had to be like, man, was this gonna come to blows?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it couldn't be, you don't like the way I play or you're insulting me. The one thing I have to tell you, when you're in a subordinate position, two words are very important. In private. Go meet people in private and make sure, get it straight and be for real. Sometimes there's actually a problem. Then you have to go through what you have to go through when there's actually a problem. Many times there's not a problem. It's very difficult when you are dealing with a group of people, some of whom have never been told to go brush their teeth, that they're messing something up. It's not that big a deal. This is an interesting era. You know, this is the time in which we're going to decide whether we want to deal with robots and machines or people. That robot is easy to deal with, man. I turned it on, it does that work, and then I turned it off. That person, somebody looked at them, somebody told them something was inappropriate, somebody, okay? So, in private, determine whether it is abuse. Then act in accordance to what you've determined in private. A lot of problems when you're in a subordinate position is when you want to, in public, challenge the authority of something over something that's in private first. Then, if need be, in public. First in private. You know what I'm saying? And so far as men, when I talk to younger people or older people, your voice is what you have. Always use it. Always use it. People don't like it. Okay, it's your voice. That's why we have this system government people died and fought over that we're trampling all on right now. Untrample it. Now, also use your voice not for you. Then you really are using it. Use your voice for somebody else you see being abused.
Right.
That's a powerful use of your voice. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So go in private and say, hey, is this? And then you'll get a better understanding because they might tell you, yeah, this is what this is. Then you can behave accordingly.
Gotcha.
Right? Okay?
Thank you.
There you are.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, sir.
It's good to see you again, Mr. Marsalis.
Man, it's great to see you. That's why I always like that hair, you know.
Appreciate that.
That's beautiful. I'm not going to rub it, though. You know, you always want to. I'm not going to do that.
Appreciate that. So my question to you is related to your record, Black Codes, The Underground. That was actually one of the first records I ever checked out of yours, and the first listen was astonishing to me. I guess I just had a certain expectation of what I would hear when listening to a jazz record, but that one took me by surprise. on a couple of the records, because the subject matter also plays into it. And so my question really is, what can you attribute the music that you got out of that group as far as the subject matters go?
Well, the subject matter, Black Codes from the Underground, is the steady insistence we have to have as Americans to be Americans. Okay, every nation is born into lying and killing and plundering. Man, you can go back into history. And you can never, you have to just determine a point at which you say, okay, right here I'm gonna try to set another tone. You have to do that in your own life. We can look back, any of us, in our lives, not for the younger of us, as you get older, and you will see dumb things that you did repeatedly. At a certain point, you tell yourself, okay, I did this stupidity, but I'm gonna stop doing it now. Then you try to stop that. We have to hold our way of government and our way of life to the fire. We have to do it. For those who are comfortable, they don't have to do it. They're like, hey, you know, it's pretty good. Sorry, buddy. I rode on a car today, subway. I got in the homeless car. Man, you know, it's like 4 or 5 people homeless. What can I do about it? I'm a musician. I can talk about it. I can talk to them. I can't tell them come move in my house. I have to be aware and to use whatever platform I have to make there be an awareness of this. We are dealing with this. We have richest country, one of the richest countries. We have homeless people everywhere. Los Angeles, Seattle, San Francisco. Man, it's unbelievable, man. When you see it, if you travel around, it's unbelievable. But the vibe is generally, okay, good luck. Hey, would you like a latte? Okay, so then Black Codes from the Underground is about restrictive laws that were put in place to return people to a type of segregation that now exists in Manhattan, actually.
Yeah, they do.
And then as a younger person, I was 22 when I wrote that. I was talking about that. But it takes all of us, because always remember that in America, as in the world, it's not black versus white or brown versus this or that versus that. It's brown and white, black and white, such as and white versus whatever that oppression is. When you're in the Western Hemisphere, the oppression is European in ancestry. But you can go in other parts of the world, man, it has nothing to do with that. So for us, the question for all of us, in jazz, we have a legacy of people who were involved in civil rights, like Benny Goodman, like Gene Krupa, like Dave Brubeck. Their sacrifice was real.
Yeah.
Those musicians have become less as time has passed. But where are we at? We got to be there with our fellow musicians, because we have a legacy of integration that many things in our country does not have. So I'm always trying to figure out how we can come together without me having to just go along with everything. Because if I have to go along with everything, we're not coming together. I'm capitulating. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So that's where I was and am coming from. I come from that with my younger students. I talk to all of them, whether they're white, black. I urge them all the time, come together and be for real. There's many more complex issues in America than just police violence and the things that are kind of hot button issues. We have a long history and tradition of slavery and freedom from slavery. You know, we have, look at where you lie and understand that we still have these problems. And as a nation, we can be together and we can affect change through our music, just through the consciousness of the music. You know?
I dig.
And that's what I'm trying to, I'm just, maybe I'm getting too intense for you.
No,
you know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm trying to think about with Black Codes. And every decade I've written one of those kind of things. Did Black Codes in the 80s. I did Blood on the Fields in the 90s. I did From the Plantation to the Penitentiary in the 2000s. And I did one called the Ever Funky Lowdown in the thousand teens. And if I live long enough to go in another decade, I'm gonna do another one.
Well, thank you for the music.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Okay, he told me I got 2 more. So I know I'm kind of long-winded, y'all. I'm sorry. It's my daddy and my mama talked a lot. Yes.
My question is, when you get discouraged and something negative happens to you in performance, how do you practice separating your self-worth from your playing?
I didn't understand the end of your question.
How do you practice separating your self-worth from your playing?
Well, I've been sad so many times, I don't equate my self-worth with my playing.
Okay.
And for me, I play with so many great colleagues that I don't, we've been, some of us 25 years we've been in the same section. And I don't, your playing is what you do. You who you are. I mean, I don't think I never equated those two really. Because you could play really good and be a drag. Or you could be real sad and be. And I always tease my kids, my oldest kids, when they were growing up, and say, man, I see y'all don't want to be good at nothing. Just be a nice person. Don't be not good at nothing and be a drag. So, I would tease them if they make a bad grade. Damn, man, what? I can't even understand this grade. So I think whether you sound good or not, it's not whether you can buy stuff doesn't make you a better person. There's a thought, like if you have money or if you have this, you're better, you're more successful. You aren't. You aren't more successful. You're not happier. Now, if you're starving, yes, you're happier. Let's not go into the extremes. In America, it's very difficult to actually starve in America. My housekeeper is Honduran. And she's been my housekeeper for maybe 3 years. And she said, America, y'all don't know what it means to no food. No food means no food. Like not, you could go steal some from the supermarket. You can't even steal any. So, I think kind of gratitude is always a part of your posture as a human being. What are you grateful for? Look at all the stuff you have to be grateful for. And so you're playing, it's a blessing to play. Sometimes you play good, sometimes you don't. Okay, the sun is gonna shine. Just because you sad, don't make anybody else sad. Listen to somebody else and like them. I'm sad, but you're good. Great. Find happiness in other people. It's like we were talking about using your voice. What about don't use your voice for yourself? Use your voice for them. Always, it's like a rhythm section. Think about how deep a rhythm section is. It is a body that improvises in accompaniment to a person who is improvising. They're always backing you up and using their creativity to make you sound better. So I find that whenever you start to get really myopic, you can get depressed and you can get I'm. But my mama used to have a saying, you're just another X out here. You can fill the X in with whatever you want. Okay.
Thank you.
But does that make sense? Yes, sir. Okay, I'm with you. Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Marsalis, how you doing?
I see you.
Hey, man. Last time I saw you, I was in 7th grade, and I had no facial hair.
But you made up for that.
Amen.
You got you a good 19th century beard. I like it.
All day.
Man, you're not playing with that beard, baby. It's looking
Crazy.
good.
But my question for you is, I'm super critical of just certain recordings, actually, I listen to jazz a lot, and me and Branford listen to records, and then we just go in on how certain things musically don't necessarily, I don't want to say line up, but we recognize that the people that recording are also human. We'll be like, oh man, that thing ain't it. That thing ain't swinging or things like that. But I feel like when I state my opinion on certain things like that, people either say, oh, you're not old enough to have an opinion on Miles or Bird, or say you don't like this about their playing. And I was just wondering, when you were pretty much developing as a musician, your ear was opening up. Were there certain things that you were very critical about in listening to certain recordings, just listening to different artists? And how did you handle it without hindering your, not being closed-minded?
Yeah, I'd be critical and talking all the time.
Yeah.
But even I'd be talking to John, he'd be like, "Phew, man, got a lot of opinions." You got a lot of opinions, man.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could play a little better.
Right.
And I think, I love to see people have opinions.
Yeah.
So I never discourage people even from a negative opinion. But the only thing I want you to strive for is balance.
Mm-hmm.
And always remember that because you're on the negative side of the equation does not make you more scholarly than if you're on the positive side.
Mm-hmm.
And something is always not something. So it's always easy to say it's not.
Yeah.
I come here, I get a good meal and all of this and eat and have a good time and say, but we didn't have the championship game on. Okay, but we were eating a meal. Yeah, but the game was on.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's good to look for balanced perspective and have the same enthusiasm about celebrating as you have about critiquing.
Mm-hmm.
So I never encourage people to dumb down their critical faculty. But don't feel like because you can criticize something, it means you know about it.
Right.
And sometimes it's fun to criticize something just because it's fun to do that.
Yeah.
Don't get too carried away.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you criticize, celebrate.
Yeah.
Keep working on that beard.
Yes, amen.
That's good. How you doing?
I know you said two more, so thank you for answering this. I got to ask you about family. You speak so admirably about your father and how he was always there for you and your brothers and your mother, and that, he said he would drive a cab, so he would do anything for you guys, right? So my question is really about balance. We were just talking about how do we find the balance between taking care of our business and really being there for the people that need us?
Well, I gave you that impression, and my father would. But how we grew up wasn't like a fairy tale. They were struggling. And people in our neighborhood were struggling, and it was real. And a lot of things happened. And everybody's personal circumstance is different. Everybody's kids are different. Everybody's marriage is different. There's so many variations on earth. And we always have a tendency to want it to be one way. But there are no right angles in nature. When you see a right angle, a human being has been there. Stuff is how it is. And it's difficult because we don't understand each other's spiritual position on earth. We have no idea. I'm looking at you. I have no idea, man, what you have to deal with, or what your talents are, what your abilities are, what your spiritual position is, what your parents are like, what your lineage is, what you're down here to do. It's so much I can't answer at all. Like I just say, man, I don't know. So I think each situation is very, very individual, though each solution is very general. So the one thing I boil it down to is if you can sacrifice for something, sacrifice. If you can't, don't. The world you want to create, wake up every day and try to create it. How you want people to relate to you, try to relate to them that way. But a lot of things happen that are mysterious to us. You could have a child born to you that just does not like you. Why? No one knows why. There are things we don't understand. Now, we can go spend a lot of money paying people, and they'll tell you at the end of the day, well, we really don't know, but they'll give a name to it, and it'll cost you some money. And that child will later say, I never liked him. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying, it's like a lot of play in life. It's like jazz, right? The drummer might do that. Another thing I'm gonna leave you with is what I learned playing with. When I play with the musicians like Herbie Hancock or Chick Corea, or from that generation, I noticed that they never judge the music they're playing while they're playing it. Man, you play something, they play with you. Somebody else play the opposite of that, they play with them. They go with it. And then when it's over, they go, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Thank y'all very much. I'm really glad to see you all. It's great. I look forward to hearing everybody play. Know that all of us are resources, and know also with your directors, many of us, as I've told you, we've known each other for a long time. Use us in any way that you can. Make sure you meet your colleagues and take advantage of this time, those who are not from New York, in New York, and listen to your colleagues very closely and give them the type of respect and love and attention that you would like to have on you. So we look forward to it and welcome and thank you.
Wynton Marsalis, how about that?